यस बच्चों, जो बच्चे 10th क्लास में पास हो गए हैं उन सभी बच्चों के लिए हमारी तरफ से भी बधाई भाई। और उनके लिए ये इकोनॉमिक्स की क्लास 11वीं क्लास के लिए शुरू कर दी गई है। इकोनॉमिक्स फॉर 11th क्लास। भाई जैसा कि आप जानते हैं कि इकोनॉमिक्स फॉर 11th क्लास में हमने तीन सेक्शन में इकोनॉमिक्स को पढ़ना है। सेक्शन ए, सेक्शन बी और सेक्शन सी। सेक्शन ए में हम लोग इंट्रोडक्टरी माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ेंगे। सेक्शन बी में हम लोग स्टैटिस्टिक्स, फॉर इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ेंगे। और सेक्शन सी हमारा जो है वो प्रोजेक्ट होगा जो कि 20 मार्क्स का है, 20 मार्क्स का। और जो स्टैटिस्टिक्स है वो 40 मार्क्स की है। और इंट्रोडक्टरी माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स भी आपकी 40 मार्क्स की है। तो ये इकोनॉमिक्स फॉर 11th के सिलेबस की बात हुई भाई। इसमें जो हमारा फर्स्ट पोर्शन है सेक्शन ए, इसमें 4 यूनिट हमें पढ़नी है। फर्स्ट यूनिट, सेकंड यूनिट, थर्ड यूनिट और फोर्थ यूनिट। फर्स्ट यूनिट का नाम है इंट्रोडक्शन, जो कि केवल 4 मार्क्स का एग्ज़ाम में आएगा। सेकंड यूनिट है कंज्यूमर इक्विलिब्रियम एंड डिमांड, जो कि 13 मार्क्स का एग्ज़ाम में आएगा। तीसरी यूनिट है प्रोड्यूसर बिहेवियर एंड सप्लाई, ये भी आपको 13 मार्क्स की यूनिट आएगी। और चौथी यूनिट है मार्केट, ये आपको 10 मार्क्स की एग्ज़ाम में आएगी। आज हम लोग यूनिट नंबर 2 डिस्कस करने वाले हैं। जो कि 13 मार्क्स की एग्ज़ाम में आएगी। यूनिट सेकंड, कंज्यूमर इक्विलिब्रियम एंड डिमांड। ये जो हमारी यूनिट सेकंड है ये 13 मार्क्स की एग्ज़ाम में पूछी जाती है। अब इसमें हमने एक तो टॉपिक निकाला है डिमांड, दूसरा टॉपिक निकाला है इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड, तीसरा टॉपिक निकाला है कंज्यूमर इक्विलिब्रियम बाय यूटिलिटी अप्रोच, और चौथा टॉपिक निकाला है हमने कंज्यूमर इक्विलिब्रियम बाय इंडिफरेंस कर्व अप्रोच। तो भाई ये हमारा यूनिट 2 के 4 टॉपिक हो गए जो हमें कवर करने हैं। अब देखिए भाई, डिमांड का जो पहला टॉपिक है इसमें हमने एक क्वेश्चन तो ये डिस्कस किया भाई, एक्सप्लेन मीनिंग ऑब्लिक डेफिनेशन ऑफ डिमांड, जिसका आंसर हमने लिखा भाई कि इन इकोनॉमिक्स डिमांड मीन्स effective desire, which is the sum of desire, ability and willingness। और हमने उसमें एक नोट भी लिखवाया था कि द इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ डिमांड is incomplete if it is not related to a given period of time and a given factor like price, income, etc. Normally demand is related to price। तो हम कह सकते हैं कि डिमांड कैन बी डिफाइंड एज तो डेफिनेशन ऑफ डिमांड क्या होगा जी? Demand can be defined as that planned quantity of a commodity which a buyer is able and willing to purchase in a given period of time at various prices. और मीनिंग क्या हो जाएगा जी? कि भाई डिमांड इज इक्वल टू इफेक्टिव डिजायर. And effective desire is the sum of desire plus ability plus willingness. In a given period of time plus at various prices. तो डिमांड इज द सम ऑफ डिज़ायर प्लस एबिलिटी प्लस विलिंगनेस. डिज़ायर का मतलब है एनी विश और वांट इन दी हार्ट और माइंड. एबिलिटी मीन्स इकोनॉमिक एबिलिटी, परचेजिंग पावर, मनी, पैसा होना चाहिए डिज़ायर को पूरा करने के लिए. एंड विलिंगनेस का मतलब है रेडीनेस टू स्पेंड और यूज़ द मनी और एबिलिटी टू फुलफिल द डिज़ायर. जब व्यक्ति अपनी एबिलिटी को इस्तेमाल करने के लिए तैयार होता है, रेडी होता है, तो उसे बोलते हैं विलिंगनेस. ठीक है बच्चों? तो ये पहला क्वेश्चन हमने किया था. उसके बाद क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 आया. एक्सप्लेन मीनिंग एंड टाइप्स ऑफ डिमांड शेड्यूल एंड डिमांड कर्व. तो इसके आंसर में हमने लिखा पहले मीनिंग, कि डिमांड शेड्यूल इज ए टेबुलर स्टेटमेंट which shows quantity demanded at various prices there are two columns in a demand schedule. The first is of price, which is shown in rupees, and second is of quantity demanded, which may be expressed in units or in kilograms, etc. For example, price is given, quantity demanded is given. Suppose the price is rupee 1, 2 and 3, and the demand is 30 units, 20 units and 10 units. If we convert this schedule into a graph, then it is called demand curve. This is a demand schedule. ये क्या है बच्चों? ये डिमांड शेड्यूल का एग्जांपल है. डिमांड शेड्यूल में दो कॉलम होते हैं, एक प्राइस का और एक क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड का. तो ये हमारी डिमांड शेड्यूल का एग्जांपल तो क्लियर हो गया. अब आगे देखते हैं. कि भाई डिमांड कर्व इज द graphical representation of demand schedule. Price is taken on vertical axis and quantity demanded is taken on horizontal axis. For example, we take quantity demanded on the horizontal axis. Excuse me बच्चों. So price is taken on the vertical axis and quantity demanded is taken on the horizontal axis. This is 1, 2 and 3. And this is your quantity demanded. Suppose it is 10, it is 20 and it is 30. Now you can match. When the price is rupee 1, demand is of 30 units. When the price is rupees 2, demand is of 20 units. When the price is rupees 3, demand is of 10 units. We can draw these combinations on the graph paper. 1 and 30. 2 and 20. And 3 and 10. Now by joining these 3 points, we get a curve. And this curve is called demand curve. dt is the demand curve. So we may write that normally demand curve is sloping downward from left to right, or we can also say that demand curve is negatively sloped from left to right. Because price and quantity demanded relate negatively or inversely or indirectly, as both moves in the opposite direction. You know that when two variables move in the opposite direction, they are negatively or indirectly or inversely related. And when two variables move in the same direction, they are positively or directly related. Then come types. Demand schedule and demand curve can be of two types. Number one is individual demand schedule, an individual demand curve. Individual demand schedule, IDS, we can write it IDS, and we can write it IDC, individual demand curve. Individual demand schedule is a tabular statement which shows quantity demanded at various prices by one individual buyer only. Similarly, individual demand curve is the graphical representation of individual demand schedule, मतलब कि IDS. Normally individual demand curve is sloping downward and steeper in shape. Number 2 is the market demand schedule and market demand curve. मार्केट डिमांड शेड्यूल, इसको हम बोल सकते हैं MDS एंड market demand curve. We can name it as market demand curve, MDC. So market demand schedule is the horizontal summation of all individual demand schedule of a market. Similarly, market demand curve is the horizontal summation of all individual demand curve of a market. Or we can say market demand curve is the graphical representation of market demand schedule, MDS. normally market demand curve MDC is sloping downward and flatter. Flatter means more changeable, more elastic, or more changeable in shape. For example, जैसे बच्चों हमारे पास ये प्राइस है, this is demand of A, this is demand of B, this is demand of C, and this is market demand. Suppose this is the price 1, 2 and 3. This is the demand 30, 20 and 10, 40, 30 and 20, 50, 40 and 30. So we will get market demand of 30 plus 40 plus 50. This gives us 120 as the market demand. Then 20 plus 30 plus 40, 90 as market demand. 10 plus 20 plus 30, that's 60 as market demand. So at a price of rupees 1, there is a market demand of 120 units. At a price of rupees 2, there is a market demand of 90 units. At a price of rupees 3, there is a market demand of 60 units. If we convert this schedule into a graph, we get individual demand curves and market demand curves. We take normally price on the vertical axis and quantity demanded on the horizontal axis. So this is 1, this is 2 and this is 3, and we have taken, suppose this is 10, this is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. Now if we plot the combination of price and quantity of demand by A, similarly by plotting the points on of the combinations of the price and quantity of demand of C, we get individual demand curve of C, like 1 and 50, 1 and 50, 2 and 40, 3 and 30, and by joining these 3 points we get individual demand curve of C. This is individual demand curve of C. Now by making the horizontal summation of these 3 curve, we get market demand curve. So suppose we join these 3 points A, B and C at a price of rupees 1, 10, 30 plus 40 plus 50. This gives us 120 as market demand. At a price of rupees 2, we get a market demand of 90 units. At a price of rupees 3, we get a market demand of 60 units. So the horizontal summation of all individual demand is called market demand curve, and we get market demand curve. And market demand is also sloping downward, but it is flatter in shape, more changeable, more elastic in shape. So it can be shown like this. So market demand curve is the horizontal summation, like at a price of rupees 1, the demand of A is 30, demand of B is 40, demand of C is 50. 30 plus 40 plus 50, this gives us 120. At a price of rupees 2, the demand is 20 by A and 40 by B and 50 by C. So 20 plus 30 plus 40, 20 plus 30 plus 40, this gives us 90 as the market demand. At a price of rupees 3, there is a demand of 10 units by A, 20 units by B and 30 units by C, and by making the horizontal summation of 10 plus 20 plus 30, we get 60 as the market demand. So by joining all these combinations of price and market demand, we get market demand curve. So market demand curve is also sloping downward, but it is sloping downward and flatter in shape, whereas individual demand curve is sloping downward and steeper in shape. Steeper means less changeable, less elastic, and flatter means more elastic, more changeable. So this is all about in the diagram. DA is the individual demand curve, of A. DB is the individual demand curve of and DC is the individual demand curve of C. And D market, this is known as the market demand curve, which is horizontal summation of all individual demand curves of a market. We have assumed only 3 consumers in this market. If the number of consumers are more than 3, then we can add the individual demand of more than 3 consumers, and so on. So this is all about question number 2. Then comes shows the mathematical or functional relation between quantity demanded, we can show it like dx, and its various determinants. Or factors like price of main commodity itself, price of the related goods PR, income of consumer Y, taste and preference T, and other factors. Of market demand. O. So the demand function shows the mathematical or functional relationship between quantity demanded. We have shown price of main commodity itself PM, so we can use demand of the main commodity DM here. It will be more appropriate. DM stand for demand of the main commodity itself. Demand of the main commodity itself is related to the price of the main commodity itself PM, or price of the related goods like price of the substitute goods and price of the complementary goods. Income of the consumer Y, taste and preferences T, and other factors of market demand O, like size and composition of population, distribution of income, weather and season, future expectations, etc. So this is known as demand function, and we will discuss demand function in the next class. We will continue from the demand functions and determinants of demand in detail. Thank you very much.